Hello, everyone, and welcome to Claret & Booze. I'm a hungover Nick, and I'm joined by. You should be hungover as well, John, as we was out yesterday together. But
yeah, I'm a man. I'm a man of steel, isn't I? I'm a real man.
You just left 4 hours before me.
Well, I know my limits.
We're joined by Gary and, of course, Mr. Nigel Khan. Nigel, how are you?
Nigel? Very well, thank you.
You're very well. Sorry. Good.
Very well, thank you.
Very well, thank you. Very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Just to correct Nigel's, he's here for the Q&A for the chaps, and he's also here for the ladies as well. I just thought I'd like to. We're a very inclusive, inclusive channel. Show. We are.
Well, I'm here for the ladies, you know. I thought I was here for the ladies.
That's why you're here, John.
That's why you're here.
You're the eye candy, John.
Yeah.
Look, what we're going to do today, I know that people probably still do want to know.
Your sugar on full fattening, though, people. So we will.
What we're going to do on this show, we're not going to talk about anything current. We're not. We've done it all to death. Nothing more has happened. There's more rumours, but we're not going to get into it because nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. This is a break from reality. We're going to talk about the. We're going to talk about the old West Ham. Going back to our roots, we did a tour. How long ago was it now, Nigel, that we recorded this? Was it about a year? It was about a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At least. And Nigel, can you not hear us? Nigel?
Nige?
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 What are you doing? Nigel!
Nigel! Nigel!
Nigel!
Internet problem.
Internet problem. He's got internet problem.
Oh,
right. Back now?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, mate. Nigel, when did we record this tour roughly? Was it about a year ago?
13 months ago. Yeah,
13 months ago.
July the 2nd, I believe.
Yeah, so it's been in post edit for 13 months.
Yeah,
with you before we got the files to Nigel, and he knocked them out in a week.
Lost tapes. Lost tapes.
Yeah.
They were lost for 12 months until they were discovered.
I did on my Google Drive.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we're going to do, we've broken it down into bite-sized chunks. This isn't the full tour because there's too much footage. So the final tour will be when we land at the bowling, and that's quite big. We'll do that as a separate show in itself. But like I say, we've broken it down into a few sections, and we're going to talk to you in the chat throughout. Nigel can answer questions throughout, but then what we'll do after each section, we'll go into the chat and we'll have a little chinwag between us about different aspects. But Nigel, do you just want to give us an outline of the tour before we start the video?
No.
You don't want to? You don't want
to? This was the 6th time I've taken a group of people on a tour. The first time, actually, that everybody was from East London, though. So normally I've done it for the foreigners. And general other people, I should add.
Yes.
But
the foreigners,
the foreigners, yeah. So it starts.
Anyone that's not from Canning Town, by the way.
That is true.
They're
well, that's you lot, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or South Ockenden.
You boys are border country, I should say. So basically, it starts at the sites of. I highlight the sites of the Thames Ironworks. I've done it in a few different ways. The one I took you on was the first time actually that we'd started where we started. I used to start at North Greenwich and get the gondola across so we could see it high up the site of the Thames Ironworks. But actually, I think it worked better in the where I took you. I think that's a better place to start actually because we get it at eye level. We get to see everything. And then we walk round through Canning Town, up the Barking Road, and then round to where the football, where West Ham and the Thames Ironworks first played football. And obviously it finishes in part 2, which will finish at where Upton Park was, should we say.
Yeah.
It was something that it started off as a laugh, to be honest. It was a German fan who was coming over to watch a game. And he was going to stay in a doss house in Forest Gate, which I thought was very funny. But then I said to him, look, don't stay there. You're better off staying in Canning Town. If you stay in Canning Town, I'll give you a tour of the area. And then I was going to take him out and show him where the Thames Ironworks and that. And then he told a few of his mates from West Ham Till I Die website, and they contacted me and said, when you take Herman the German out, can you take us as well?
Herman the German.
So it turned out that I took about 7 people out on that first one, and they loved it. And then so I've done it, as I say, a lot, and this was the 6th running. So. You know, hopefully
when was that? When was your first tour?
The first tour was 2017.
Oh, okay.
So,
not bad. So you're averaging sort of 1 a year then.
Well, yeah. Well, because of COVID, so I was doing 2 a year. So with COVID, I lost 2 years. So,
okay, right. Well, look, should we get into the first section?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Enjoy,
people, and we will talk to you in the chat.
Yeah, just got to figure out how to fucking do it again. 1 minute.
Oh,
that's the one.
Hangover.
I'm glad you added the music, Nick.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Is there no?
This went to the start of the Hammers History Tour. We'll take you back to the start of West Ham United and the origins. Now we're standing on what we would call the Middlesex side of the River Lee in Trinity Wharf. And the reason why we're standing here is because actually it was this land here where the first shipbuilding started. So before Thames Ironworks, in 1835, there was a company called Ditchburn and Mere. Yeah. We see the sign printed. They were the first people to start the works here, building ships along this part of the river. Over time, I think Ditchburn left the company, became CJ Mere. They went into money trouble. And then Arnold Hill's dad, Frank Hills, bought into the company around the 1850s and opens up the Thames Ironworks, where shipbuilding really starts. Yep. And it was in this area here that was the birthplace of the Thames Ironworks. Over time, as the order books filled up with ships, they then moved over onto what would have been the Essex side. Yep. And the reason for that is because this side was Middlesex, this was London. So there was restrictions on the type of works that you could carry out inside the borders of London. Yeah. In Essex, there were no such restrictions.
Do what you like.
And hence, that's why all the way along here, you had the chemical works, you had munitions factories, you had the glue factory where they put the horses and everything else. But this land here, all the way up there, this was Thames Ironworks land. Now, while we're standing here, if you look there at the brick wall, this would have been one of the slipways where they built the big ships. So when they want to float the ship, at high tide, they would push it into the river and it would shoot out into the Thames. And this is basically the birthplace of the Thames Ironworks.
That's amazing. So that's literally all that's left of Thames Ironworks today.
So yes, basically you can see where the brick wall is.
Yeah.
If we look at some of the pictures that we'll get, there was the big ships would be built there. They had dry docks all the way along. So when you look at the pictures, the images that we'll see, you'll see how they lined up. But this was where the big ships were built. There was a ship built that became a disaster in the early 1900s. I think it was called the Albion.
I remember this.
And basically they launched the ship into the river and it caused a bow wave. There was people lined up on temporary pontoons that all got washed into the river. The King and Queen, I think it was the Queen that launched the boat, I think it was Queen Mary launched the boat, and they were here, didn't know, and apparently I think it was about 35, 40 people killed, kids and families, and they're all buried in West Ham Cemetery in a grave together, the ones that they found out. But the ships built all around the world were built here. Japanese Navy, a lot of their warships in the early 1900s were built here, bearing in mind the First World War ships. So if you think of the ironworks, they used to make not just ships here. if you look at the steel providing on Westminster Bridge, that was built by the Thames Ironworks. That was iron supplied by the Thames Ironworks that built.
So not only did we West Ham win the World Cup, we pretty much built most of London.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of the steel structure for the Blackwall Tunnel, that was supplied by the Thames Ironworks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, obviously, the works finally, I think they built their last ship in 1911. They struggled to get orders. Arnold Eels campaigned, went to see the Admiralty, but the big docks and shipbuilding up on the Tyne Weir and up in Glasgow had bigger area. Orders weren't forthcoming. 1912, they shut the doors to the Thames Ironworks. Now, what you've got to remember is the First World War then happened in 1914. They built the first ironclad warship here, which is the Warrior, which you can see in Portsmouth Harbour. So if you're ever in Portsmouth,
That was built here.
that was built here, the first ironclad battleship for the British Navy. So that was done here. Now, if you imagine that if the First World War had been a couple of years earlier, or if Thames Ironworks had had just a couple of more boats, they probably still would have been going come the First World War when they had to step up. But by then it was too late. Basically, the North East London Railway Department took over the building. If you look at, do you remember the building you see of the Thames Ironworks?
Yeah.
That would be just in front of those blocks of flats there, where the trees are. That would have been situated there, looking this way.
Wow.
John, I don't think much of your part of it, mate. Just over there, look.
Shut up.
So, but yeah.
That's Nick. If you didn't hear him, he said, "Look where John's parked. It's parked on the roof of the cafe."
It's got a tree going for it.
Yeah. Nothing. No job too big. No job too small.
I believe this was a ship as well built at the Thames Ironworks.
Really?
One of the lighthouse boats. Yeah. Anything else you want to know?
You got any questions?
I haven't got any questions about this part. No, I'm really interested to see the site because I've never seen it before. I've never been here before.
When I'm up on the flyover, there's the back of one of the warehouses. It says Thames Ironworks.
Yeah, we drove that. So you'll see a building that's got Thames Ironworks. It's a warehouse, and basically people will go past, go, "I've been to where's Thames Ironworks." Frankly, that is not part of Thames Ironworks, and the building, Thames Ironworks, never went that far down either.
Okay. It's just a historic thing they've done it for.
That was done for a TV company, I believe, called Ripper Street.
Right.
And they've painted some of, so if you look at, they've got CJ Mayer, Ditchburn and Mayer, they were all painted to be atmospheric enhancements of what was going on for when
So this is why you need the Nigel Cantor. Otherwise, you're gonna end up finding yourself in the wrong place.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but it's great photograph opportunity. It's a nice photo you see at Thames Ironworks.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, it's a stone's throw away from here. It literally is, but it's not part of the site of what was Thames Ironworks.
Right, lovely.
All right, we'll move on then.
On to the next stop.
On to the next stop. All right, here we are in Canning Town Station. So what we're here to see is a commemorative to the Thames Ironworks. Now basically this was part of the Thames Ironworks land, the northern extreme of the Thames Ironworks buildings. Further south from here was where they built the ships, but obviously it came all the way up, virtually up to here. You've got the railway that's still situated here behind us, which is Docklands Railway. Obviously that would bring materials down as well to enable the shipbuilding. If we look here, we've got, when they built the station, I think about 20 years ago with the Jubilee extension line, they then engraved into this wall commemorative about the Thames Ironworks and the formation of West Ham United.
Yeah.
And what we've got here is a piece of steel from the original Warrior that was built.
Right.
That's been donated.
So that DLR railway then, that was a section of it was used for the original to transport.
Yeah, so basically part of it, not so much the DLR, but there was a railway line that went from Stratford to North Woolwich.
Oh, right.
And that brought goods for the docks. You think we're a stone's throw away from the Royal Victoria and Albert docks.
Yeah.
So to bring the goods down, you had all the marshalling yards at Stratford that would bring everything down, shunt it down to here.
It sort of hits home the size of the operation, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Away from where we
It was a big.
you take it for granted.
At the beginning, I think up to 6,000 people worked here.
Bloody hell.
So virtually all this area, the people either worked in the docks or the ironworks.
No, it's huge.
Unlike
it's
my
huge.
family, who were market traders.
And what about that that little area we just passed? Nicely, Den of Iniquity, that you called it. What was?
Yeah, I've forgotten the name of it now, but obviously Orchard Place.
Yeah.
That was a sort of community that kept itself to itself. I think up until the 1940s, they were cleared out.
Yeah.
But we go round and follow the wall round. You get the inscriptions.
What made them, the thing is with this is, what made them decide to commemorate this? I know it was an important part of history in the area, and was that purely it?
Yeah, it's to
But then they
commemorate.
didn't.
You could say without the Thames Ironworks, there may not have been a West Ham United Football Club. So if you look at it, the West Ham celebrated apparently this 127th birthday.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I saw you called them up on that.
Well,
You called them out.
I will go further as we go on. I will then try and say why I believe in 1900.
Yeah.
But as we've got here, you can see the Warrior was the world's first ironclad armour-plated ship. And then we've got obviously the West Ham Cross. If you look at the West Ham hammers, they face a certain way. Yeah. Originally, they face the other way. But they are to symbolise the riveting hammers. So obviously, basically when you built an iron ship, it was all done with steel and rivets.
Yeah.
So someone would hold the rivet with calipers, someone would hit it, the clunk, clunk, clunk.
That's amazing. That's a lot of ships, isn't it?
Oh look, it tells you Westminster and Hammersmith bridges.
Yeah, so here we go.
That the railway bridge.
Yeah, so
that's a big part of London.
Years later, they bought other companies. So they bought a company in Greenwich that made cars. So Thames Ironworks went into the car making business in the early 1900s. It obviously didn't work or take off.
But that could have been a hindrance on them dissolving, and that they take on too much.
The story is with the Thames Ironworks is what happened is that the reason why they shut the football club down was financially he couldn't carry it anymore. It was a drain on his finances. They'd bought another company and they were expanding the business and they needed the finance. And that's why in the end it was. And the Thames Ironworks Football Club was built was done for Thames Ironworks workers. Arnold Hills was, I think he was an England international footballer himself and an Oxford player, and he believed in amateurism, and he wasn't keen on, as the Ironwork Club grew between 1895 and 1898, as it grew and got better, we were bringing in better players. But these were players that didn't come from the yard, and he sort of objected. They were like professionals, and he objected to them in a way coming. And this is part of the reason as well why he wanted to finish with the club, because he believed he was teetotal, and he was also head of the British Vegan or Vegetarian Society based in London, and he believed in temperance. And players were supposed to sign a contract to say they wouldn't drink alcohol while they were players, and he felt he'd lost grip of it. And basically, he didn't turn his back on it, as we'll find out later, but he decided, no, we need to cut this, stop this being Thames Ironworks and separate. So we'll finish it. If we walk down, obviously it says we've got the cross dammers. The yard went into receivership in 1912.
It's amazing that a company so seemingly successful had so many strings to their bow.
Well, that's what I was trying to say. That could have been a hindrance in a way financially.
Yeah, it could have been. They stretched themselves. They stretched themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then alongside the football club as well.
Yeah, but I never knew about the bridges.
We're standing here in Hermit Road Park, and the reason why this is famous is because this was the first pitch or area of ground where the Thames Ironworks played their football game.
What's happened, Nick? Oh no. Oh no.
One. Ah, that's it. Unmute me. That's the end of part one.
That's the end of part one. Is that the end of part one?
That was the end of part one.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So we continue on with that one in the next video. Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah.
I thought I'd only downloaded half the video.
No.
All right, good stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So that was really interesting, though, wasn't it? I mean, going back to that site, and well, it's not really hard to picture it when you're there. It's not when you paint the picture that you do. You kind of I know there's been a lot of development around that area now, but like you say, they've done an awful lot around there to commemorate the history, haven't they? They have done. You know, as it's been built up, like you said, them.
I think that was brilliant. What they did in the station when they built it. I mean, you know, it's really extensive memorial, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's been there since the station. The Canning Town station was originally further up the road, so that obviously that station was built for the Jubilee line extension, because obviously that was the first time we had a tube station at Canning Town. It was just overground before then. So that I think that was 1997, was it? Jubilee line, something
Sounds
like
about
that.
right, yeah.
98,
Yeah.
I think.
It was around about them.
Yeah, the Jubilee line extension, and so that's when they put that memorial on the staircase, and it is quite strange, because most people, you're walking through the doors and you go down the escalators and you don't bother to go and check out the staircase at the end.
No.
So where it is, but that's, you know, anybody can go in and have a look at it.
Question there, Nigel, Mr. Mace. So did we ever play at Hermit Road as West Ham United, or was it only ever as Thames Ironworks?
Well, that's in part. That's in the next
part two.
video.
So
We do
answer it. It was. We never played at Hermit Road as West Ham.
No.
We're doing part 2 video tonight as well, yeah?
Yeah.
We're doing the second video.
Just so people know. It's just so people know. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the next video, I think, should start on the Barking Road.
All right. Let's
I think
do that.
I think the thing, just quickly, the thing that surprised me about that is that obviously that area where we was doing that video in was Trinity Boy Wharf, and there's a lot of new development there, like Nick said, like Container City, Trinity Boys Wharf, Fat Boys Diner, there's Prince Charles Art School there and all that. And I've been over there so many times as a cabbie and that, and I never knew till I did that tour with Nigel. I never knew that so many times I'd literally been to where West Ham started. It's mad.
I didn't know it was there either. I had no clue. I thought it was where the fake sheds are. You know, where it says Thames Ironworks.
Yeah, no, a lot of people. Don't lie though, John. You normally go there for the diner, don't you?
Well, they sell lovely peanuts.
There's a question from Chris Simpson. Is there enough space at Hermit Road to build a new proper football stadium?
Ooh.
Not Hermit Road, no.
Maybe the other gaff though. Maybe the other gaff.
At the memorials, there's definitely enough land at the memorials. You know, we'll cover the memorials. You'll see how much land is there.
Good stuff. So, you're getting a lot of appreciation here, Nigel.
Yeah, Balls Deep. Balls Deep says.
Balls Deep. Thank you very much, mate.
Cheers, Balls Deep.
Deep's made a nice contribution to us, but he's also said, "I'd pay to go on a tour with Nigel, taking groups around. There's no official tour, so it might be a nice little earner." A lot of people have asked in the chat, Nigel, do you still do the tours? So
I will be doing the tours. I'll try and fit them in. Probably October, November time. I'll shout out and take a group round. I mean, I get loads of people asking, and you know, I suppose I could do more. It's hard with my work at the moment to fit it in and to get it and to do it before a game. You know, when the game's on a Saturday, actually, that's what I used to do. So we'd start at 9 o'clock, and then we'd finish, have a quick drink in the Bowlin pub where the tour finishes, and then we'd crack on. As we did, we finished. In the Bowlin
we finished
pub.
in the Bowlin. Good drinking there, wasn't it? Nice drinking.
Yeah. Is it Babble Man 1? He was told as a kid in the 70s there was a big strike, and the Millwall lot broke the strike, and that was the start of the rivalry. Is that right?
I'm not sure that's the start of the rivalry. I think if you go back before, I think this is the general strike. I think that's around 1926, 27 era. There was a general strike. The Millwall docks went out. The West Ham docks went out.
Yeah.
And the story is people say the Millwall docks went back. I'm not sure about about whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that there was stories of fighting long before the 1920s between West Ham and Millwall.
Yeah.
What
right.
you know, what you got to remember is Millwall's an older football club than West Ham. So Millwall was already formed when the Thames Ironworks was formed. We played in the same league, and that was when Millwall. I don't think Millwall left the Isle of Dogs till around 1910. So
really?
before that, yeah. So they were an East End club, Millwall.
Oh, I didn't realise they were on the Isle of Dogs. I didn't know that.
Oh
Yeah.
no, they were formed. There's a story that that some people dispute it. There was definitely we call it a jam jar factory in a way, but they were it was called Maltons, and it was more of a canning. They made jars, and they came down from Scotland, Maltons, and set up a factory on West Ferry Road. And it was the workers from there that first formed Millwall. I think it was Millwall Albion that was the first name.
Yeah.
And they played in about 3 or 4 sites on the island, including the Mud
wow.
Shoot.
Yeah.
And actually, there's pictures. So if you go to
Been
Mud
there.
Shoot Park,
Yeah.
you can see the railway viaduct. Well, you can see photographs of Millwall playing in the early 1900s, and the viaducts in the background.
Oh, right.
Oh, wow.
If you just quickly, Gal, sorry, mate. If you think back, Nick, when we was growing up in Mile End, we knew a lot of Millwall fans from East London, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
Loads.
We knew a lot
Loads
of
them.
East Londoners who were Millwall because they was on the cusp of the Isle of Dogs, and that's where they formed.
I would say it was pretty much an even split.
Grandfathers, and all
Yeah.
that.
It was pretty much an even split, wasn't it? Don't you think,
It was
with
pretty much
West
an
Ham
even
and
split
Millwall?
where we live.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I lived on the island for 18 months.
Yeah.
And when I was 19, I moved out of home, moved onto the island, and I think 3/4 of it was Millwall.
Yeah, it's a lot of Millwall over
I mean,
there.
there was a geezer actually in the pub. Actually, he was the first bloke who said he didn't like. He took a dislike to me because I worked in the area.
Oh.
And I went, I come from Canning Town, mate. It's a mile up the road. He went, yeah, you're not from the island, though, are you?
Yeah. So tribal, wasn't it? So tribal.
Oh, mate, it was.
Yeah.
It was when you dig down in it. It was quite fun. It was quite funny. It's a fantastic history, but the rivalry between the two was always there. And of course, obviously, once West Ham was formed, we had to be superior, and they left the East End for the South.
Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah.
It explains the name though, because Millwall is the island, isn't it?
Well, there were 2 walls. Apparently, originally, the Isle of Dogs gets its name quickly because I think Henry VIII used to keep his dogs there.
Yeah.
Hunting dogs. And
Makes
then
sense.
as it built up, there was 7 mills on the west side, and there was a black wall on the east side.
Yeah.
No, that's why you got the black wall area and why there. But apparently the reason why Millwall play in blue and white is because obviously the people came down from Scotland, and so they took the colours from the Scottish flag.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
One of them, whether it's true, it's like the old story about us nicking our kit from Aston Villa, from a road race. I mean, I've researched that, never found it in a million years, and the fact that the race that we won it happened, and then we didn't wear claret and blue for another 4 years. So what we did with that kit when we won it, we probably gave it to Nick to look after.
I wonder if as your knowledge stretches to Millwall as well. Have you ever thought of doing Millwall tours?
Well, to be fair, I've actually thought about doing a London football tour because if you nip across the river to Cholton, you've still got the Ordnance, and you got the Dial Square in the Ordnance just along from Woolwich is where Arsenal was formed. So
that's right. They were not a North London club, were they?
No, not till 1913 did they go to North London. But as Arsenal will tell you, well, Tottenham weren't a North London club either because they were in Middlesex. So it all gets a bit tetchy in that part of London.
It does. It does.
Muppets.
Very sensitive, aren't they? Very sensitive.
Right. So what's video 2? What's video 2 comprising of quickly?
So
The
video
Memorial Park.
I think it should, if we've done it right, should start on the Barking Road, and then we should go to the memorials and Hermit Road, and then the memorials.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
Good stuff.
Thames Ironworks had a sports
Video
and
too,
social
boys and girls.
offices, and that was situated here at 55 Barking Road.
Yeah.
So we've got an image here that we'll show in the film, and that is that building. If you look at the windows, and there, so this is the Thames Ironworks sports and social club.
Even the trellis of the dental house next door, look, same.
So everything is the same.
See if you can get this in the foreground.
I'll send you a better picture. So basically, the reason why it's synonymous that the Thames Ironworks Football Club was shut down in June 1900, but it was done, it had all been arranged for a new club to be formed.
Yeah.
So basically, on the 4th of July 1900, in 2 days' time, this is the 2nd of July,
The birthday.
7 men walked into that building and signed a document, and this is the front cover of it. It was stamped the next day on the 5th of July, and that incorporated West Ham United Football Club into a living, breathing being. And that's why I always say West Ham was formed in 1900.
So Tuesday
Because it
was
actually
their
was.
birthday,
And that was in number 55 there.
which is now Oliver's Garden. Oh wow.
So,
So all those people who moan and bitch on Twitter about West Ham, they wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for that little meeting. That went on at this.
I mean, frankly, there was 10 men that came together to form a new committee.
Yeah.
7 signed the document there. One of them was Kearns, who family basically ended up running West Ham until 2006. Or were shareholders up until 2006. Arnold Hills, though, when West Ham United was formed, it didn't stop being a benefactor. So because he wanted the club to be a club for the area, he decided that, he said that for every 1 share bought by the public, he would buy a share.
Right.
So therefore he ended up, it didn't go too well, and I think he ended up with over 50% of the shares. But he was true to his word, and without Arnold Hills, West Ham United wouldn't have been formed. But without the other 10 men as well, some were people that were from the Ironworks, some were businessmen, entrepreneurs that used to deal with the Ironworks as well, and some were just general people. One of them, believe it or not, was a cattle farmer. There used to be a farm, this was all farmland behind, and he had a cattle farm just up the A13 opposite
So as much
Beckton Park.
as much as that area we were, Thames Ironworks started the football club Thames Ironworks. That's where West Ham United officially.
Yeah, so the 4th of July, the document was signed. That's the
in that
front
building
cover of the
there.
document.
Wow, okay.
The Articles of Association.
So was the name given there and then of the club?
So it says here, West Ham United Football Club Company Limited
Wow.
is they incorporated the Company Act 1882-19, and you can see it was dated the 4th of July 1900, signed by, I believe, solicitors from Stratford.
And is that would they then be? Were they professional as of that moment, or still amateur?
Yes, no, they were a football club.
So at that moment,
it was a
they were
limited company.
professional.
Yeah.
West Ham United.
Yes, this is the birth here of actual West Ham
I've driven
United.
past that so many times. I've never known that.
The story is that it was as early as March. Hills let it be known he wanted to shut the football club down. People came together. There's the Canning Town Town Hall, basically on the left there, Memorial Hall. They had a meeting there, I believe, in the April, and it was decided they were going to set up. The mayor of West Ham spoke, set up a new football club. What do we call it? There was 2 names put forward. One was Canning Town Football Club. The other was West Ham. Naturally, they chose West Ham because basically what it symbolised was, it symbolised the wider area. West Ham as a borough went from the river here and the Royal Docks up as far as Stratford and Forest Gate, and then that was West Ham. West Ham borough actually stopped at Green Street and opposite, and then that became East Ham borough. 2 separate boroughs then before they formed in 1965 to be Newham. So, but they chose West Ham because they wanted to basically broaden the name. Imagine it being constricted if it was just called Canning Town Football Club.
But even at that early
It's like
stage,
West Ham London now, isn't it?
Well,
but
that's not the first time that's been said to me.
but you know what? But the thing is with that is that's already smart business sense, because that is you're widening your target audience. So you're bringing in more fans in a bigger area.
If you think of West Ham, the town hall for West Ham is Stratford Town Hall. That is West Ham Town Hall. So it sort of takes we were predominantly a Canning Town club and made it a team for the borough.
Wow.
There you go.
Oh well.
There you go. Yeah.
So that place, I mean, I played here as a kid, used to walk along here,
So
never knew that.
Where's the Memorial Hall?
Just up on the left-hand side,
On the left, before
the old building.
the brown and cream building.
So
Where the yellow
Right.
car is.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Nigel, I'm just wondering, did they have good shisha and wine back in the day as well?
No, I don't think so.
No.
They did have a NatWest Bank though.
Oh, right, okay.
So that was NatWest
NatWest
Bank
Bank.
next door.
And it looks like.
If you
an
look
NatWest Bank
here,
as well,
it's
doesn't
hard
it?
to imagine.
The Doctor's Dental House was in that
If you look at the number 55,
Yeah.
so that's 51 to 53. There's nothing.
So where did they get the start from?
Oh well, basically the Barking Road started at the river.
Oh, what you said.
Right.
Yeah, and obviously all that was wiped out when they built the
But when
Canning
you was
Town
growing up, that
flyover.
was a bank, yeah? When you was growing up, that was a bank, wasn't it?
No booing.
When you was growing up, that was a bank, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah, it was a bank, NatWest Bank. Yeah,
I remember it being a bank, I'm sure.
yeah
I
up
would have,
until
wouldn't
the early 1990s.
I? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So if we look here quickly, so if we look at the Maidan, so this
was a
is
pub,
not
wasn't it?
so much West Ham, but this is the Royal Oak pub.
Yeah.
As a kid, Royal Oak pub was of course famous, really put on the world map as a boxing gym,
Frank
Right.
Bruno.
Right.
and that's where Frank Bruno trained. So you can see Frank was just standing by the doorway, and that's where you could see him come out in his car. I used to go up there as a kid and watch him box Mark Kaler, Jim McDonald, some fantastic
brilliant.
boxers of the time, run by Terry Lawless.
Yeah.
So that's part more of Canning Town history than West Ham, but it was a world famous boxing gym.
Well, Mark Kaler was a big West Ham supporter as well, wasn't he? So,
yeah, lots of West Ham
so it's
boxers
Big Frank
fought there.
So it's
Yeah.
Big Frank.
Super.
All right.
That's good. Right, on to the next stop.
So we're standing here in Hermit Road Park, and the reason why this is famous is because this was the first pitch or area of ground where the Thames Ironworks played their football game.
Oh, wow.
Now, the original users of the pitch were the Castle Swifts. They were a club that it said that Charlie Painter had played for, grew up here. Their demise, their football club ceased to play around the same time as the Thames Ironworks was set up. So it's possible that some of the players that played for the Castle Swifts were in the Ironworks as well. So it was a natural progression of them to play for the Ironworks team.
Almost like a feeder club.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether the demise of Swifts was caused by Thames Ironworks setting up. It's probable that they were shutting down anyway, but it was lucky because it gave them a football pitch to play on. So from 1895 to 1897, this is where Thames Ironworks played their football games. This was the area where one of the first floodlight games took place, and what they did was they put pitch poles up, strung light bulbs, honestly, across the pitch, plugged them in, and they used to dip the ball in whitewash while the game was being played.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What, if it was so much effort, why did they choose to play it at night?
Whether it was to do with the game that had to be played during the week, the men were working in the factory, these were factory workers.
In the winter, sun goes down. Okay,
So the game was played. Now, there's a story that Thames Ironworks had to leave this area due to the fact that they'd fenced it off the pitch and started charging an entrance fee. Now, it said at the time that that was not allowed.
It was an amateur game.
So the owners of the land had decided that they'd gone against their lease and basically evicted the Ironworks from this area and forced them to go and play. They played for a season in Brownhill Road in East Ham. But they needed to get back to the area, and it was we'll see on the next stop what Arnold Hills did for the football club and for the local area, what he built. But as you can see, this is where the very first Thames Ironwork, and this is the part where Mark Noble apparently used to play football, and where I myself nearly decapitated a woman with my boomerang.
Yeah.
Did you used to play when you was a keeper, Nige? Did you used to play in this goal?
Well,
Why you were so good? Because the goal's so tiny.
well, I was tiny as well.
Well, yeah, I can imagine that.
I did used to play in this football. Yes, I did.
So is this the same footprint, obviously without the fences and stuff like that? It's the same footprint, used to be just a big
it's
field.
difficult because when you look at maps of the area, a lot of these houses weren't built. So the houses would stop here, Bethel Avenue.
Yeah.
And this is just marked as open land. So if you get the 1895 map of the local area, this is just open land. Right. But this is the only place they could have had a football pitch in Hermit Road.
Yeah.
So this is this is it. This is where
what's left at least.
Where the Thames Ironworks first played their football matches.
And you mentioned there used to be a mural, didn't they? A mural.
So there used to be a mural in the corner.
I like murals.
I'll send you some photos of the mural. I've got photos of the mural that used to be there.
As well.
Yeah, I got one of Muriel. Yeah, she was on the other side of the wall.
1978 Playboy special.
Yeah.
She used to be the mayoress of West Ham, I believe. But yeah, another site of interest really for the Ironworks.
Well, very good. Right.
Okay.
Breaking news.
So what we've got here is we've got the team, the very first team for the Thames Ironworks that was chosen. So it's called the probable team. So we've got John Watson, don't really know a lot about. Henry Toll, he was a Plaistow blacksmith and at the Ironworks. He lived in Roscoe Street. We've got an A. Williams, a John Stewart, a Barnabas French who lived in Canning Town and was a labourer in the Ironworks. Walter Parks, come from the Isle of Dogs, was a clerk at the Ironworks. So not all manual labour, it was a mixture.
For the team.
John Woods was a boiler maker who lived in Plaistow, but obviously was a boiler maker at the Ironworks. George Sage came from Plumstead, but he lived on Hermit Road himself, and he was a labourer. And his son George also worked as an apprentice. And then we got Jamie Lindsay from Fife in Scotland, as we spoke about.
He was one of the imports.
Yeah, he was a boiler maker living in Kingsland Road, Plaistow, which is just up the road. Thomas Freeman, and lastly, Arthur Darby was a Canning Town boy, but he was living in Poplar with his mum. And Francis Payne was the secretary of the football club. So he ran the Thames Ironworks Football Club. It's a name not really known well. He came from Birmingham, but his address was the Thames Ironworks. He lived in a house. He was like the gatekeeper. He would open the gates of the morning and let the people in. Francis Payne.
So it was a great leveller then across the you know,
it was a wide spectrum.
But it's like any works team now. When you see those city bods going to play their work matches, you can have someone from the post room. Someone, you know, and it's just, it ain't changed. It's funny, isn't it? It's just
well, that's what makes football so great, isn't it?
Well,
okay.
Very good.
Some of the post boys.
Right, now we're at the site of the Canning Town Memorial Grounds. Still to this day, this was built and paid for by Arnold Hills for the local area and to be a recreation area for the workers of the Thames Ironworks. It was opened, one reason why it's called Memorial Gardens, because it was opened on the Queen Victoria Jubilee 1897. So this is how old the park is, and it's been here that long. Of course, this was the home as well of the Thames Ironworks Football Club from 1897 onwards. The football pitch would have been here. If you look at this grass banking here, there was a cycle track that went round the football pitch because it was a multi-use stadium. Yeah, so it did cycling and football, and this is part of the old cycle track. It used to go along, and they used to bank round, all the way round, back again. We've got images that we can show you of the thing. So it was here in September 1897. Thames Ironworks beat Brentford 1-0. This was where the Ironworks played. Obviously, what happened is the Ironworks shut down. West Ham United has formed, as we've covered. This becomes the natural and the first home of West Ham United Football Club. So September 1900, West Ham played their first home game. In goal was Hughie Monteith from Scotland. It was signed from Bury. So what you would now see is professional players.
Transfer market's up and running,
So
isn't it?
now, instead of just being ironworkers, and you can see why Hills decided to split away, because Hills' dream was the Ironworks should represent, and he wanted people to play for the team from the Ironworks. But the committee that run the football team had already started bringing in professionals. A lot of these players had played for the Ironworks, played for West Ham as well in the beginning. Hughie Monteith, Scottish from Bury, played 60 games for West Ham. Walter Tranter from Middlesbrough, he played for the Ironworks and then played for one season for West Ham United. Right. Charles Craig, come from Dundee, another ex-Thames Ironworks footballer, and he played over 60 games for West Ham. Charles Dove was a local, but he also played for the Ironworks one season with West Ham. Luke Raisbrick from Middlesbrough, he'd come down with Hughie Monteith, only played 4 games for West Ham, this being the first. Roddy McEachran, another Scot. You can see the Scots are coming down. They're footballers, they're ship workers. There's plenty of trade in the area with the docks. He did 2 seasons with West Ham before going to play for Woolwich Arsenal. Yeah. Fergus Hunt, who joined us. Fergus Hunt. He was a Yorkshireman.
Early rhyming slang.
He joined us in 1900, so never played with the Ironworks. We bought him from Arsenal. And went back to Arsenal in 1902. William Grasham was a Glaswegian who we bought from Port Vale. He scored 4 goals in the first game here in September.
What a debut.
That's becoming the first hat-trick hero for West Ham United. William Grasham left us in 1908 to play for Man United and become a great player for Man United as well. James Reid scored 2 goals, had 1 season for West Ham, but we got him as well from Port Vale. Albert Kay from Derbyshire, we got him from Chatham, which is where Sid King come from. He left after 1 season. And Freddie Fenton, who was no relation to the Fenton brothers that played for West Ham and later managed West Ham, that was his only season, 1 season with West Ham, that was it. So 3/4 of this team only played 1 season with West Ham before leaving. They beat Gravesend in a 7-0 victory. 2,000 crowd for the first West Ham United game.
That's a big crowd, isn't it?
Away from home, the week after, 10,000 saw West Ham lose to Millwall.
Had they started charging? Entrance fees?
Yeah, entrance fees were payable.
But that tells me the club were quite ambitious even back then. Those players didn't hang around for very long, right? So they were replacing players quite a lot.
Yeah, so it was, they wanted to build a better team, always looking. Players did move around before. Contracts were like for 1 season, that was it.
Oh, right, okay.
So West Ham played here till 1904. What happened in 1904 was Hills, for whatever reason, had had enough of West Ham, or he weren't happy about what was going on. And the story is that he evicted West Ham. He sent them a letter saying, you can no longer use this ground. West Ham were renting this, they didn't own it. Yeah? So the people running West Ham needed to find somewhere else to play. So West Ham's last game here was played April 1904 against Swindon. Near enough a totally different team. Not one player from 1900 now plays for West Ham in 1904. That team was Fred Griffiths, George Eccles, William Oakes, Tommy Allinson, Ernest Watts, Joe Blythe, James Bigden, Herbert Lyon, William Bridgman, remember that name, Alec Thompson and William Barnes. West Ham had finished 12th out of 18 teams in the Southern League. But now we're being evicted. And basically, the future of the club was also, they needed somewhere to play.
In jeopardy almost.
And Sid King went about looking to find somewhere for West Ham to play the 1904-5 seasons. Now we know where we ended up, and that's where we're going next. But if you have a look around, you can see the vastness So I've got a drawing
So
of
did this
the
stay?
layout.
Did this stay when West Ham got evicted? Did this stay as a sort of multi-sport
Well,
for the Ironworks?
if you look, we've got images. We'll supply you better images. So the old grandstand. So if you look at the first photograph of West Ham United in 1900,
Yeah.
that's taken in front of the grandstand. The grandstand stood just roughly where that building is now. So if you make it out,
Yeah.
so this is the cycle track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a vast stand, isn't it? Like you didn't
Yeah.
realise.
So this is the grandstand.
huge.
So this is the banking there. This is, so we're standing roughly where this running track is.
Yeah, yeah.
That banking there is behind us, which is the greenway.
Yeah, yeah.
That was for the cycling. It was a big sport.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, Hills was more of a keen cyclist than he
Yeah.
was a
Can I
footballer.
ask a question? I don't know if I missed it. Who paid for and built the grandstand?
Arnold
and that?
Hills.
Arnold Hills, right,
built
okay.
built all this ground.
Wow.
So there's a map of what it looked like.
But that would have been a huge investment at the time.
So obviously we're standing roughly here where my fingernail is, just where the edge is. So you can see.
So, and this complex, was it for use by the Thames Ironworks exclusively, or was it just for the area?
No, it was for use by the area. They had boxing matches here, professional boxing, they'd build a ring.
Yeah.
And it was used after. There is a story where actually Hills approached a team called Orient to then come and play their football here. But
first
the
of
Hills
many
are actually, the Hills,
He did have
and this is the thing, there's a bad feeling.
Bit of
And,
history. There's
and
a
if
bit
you
of history
remember,
there, isn't there? Yeah.
he's not the owner of the club, but he's still got 50% of the shares.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And you
So,
said, do you think this comes from that sort of political conflicts where he wanted people from the Ironworks to represent West Ham? And
well, I think it had moved on since then. Obviously, it was a more professional in 1904. We were now, it was solely a professional football club. It was playing in the Southern League, which was a big league. It was the rival to the more Northern and Midland centric football league that had been set up in the 1880s.
Right.
So I think Arsenal were the first club to actually go and play football league from the London area. We would play Spurs. Spurs, I think Spurs won the FA Cup in 1904, officially the last non-league team to win the FA Cup, because they were in the Southern League, not in the Football League. So it's different. What we'll do, we'll have a quick walk over to this memorial over here. Okay, we're still in the Memorial Gardens, but we're now at a piece of artwork, which is basically, it's a memorial. And it's a memorial to, if you remember back where we was at Trinity Wharf, and I told of the Albion disaster where the ship was launched into the Thames and it washed away a pontoon where people situated. 38 people were killed. This is a memorial, and basically the layout of this memorial is in a bow of the Albion ship.
Right.
So the 11 hammers are there to represent the bow situated. And of course, this is where the Thames Ironworks played football. So this was installed, I think, about 20 years ago. There's a plaque here that identifies what it's for. You've got to remember that the link between West Ham and the Thames Ironworks continues today with the shout, "Come on, you Irons!" You know, that's a throwback to the pre-1900 days of cheering on the Ironworks.
Should we have a look at the still?
That's
show us a
incredible.
minute?
So if we go here to the memorial, it's every one of these represents a riveting hammer, the type of hammer that was used in the ironworks, and it's made to be able to clunk the memorial, and that would have been the sound that echoed throughout the dockyard as the riveters hammered in their rivets into the steel to build the ships that built the back of Britain, basically. So,
And that when I look at that hammer, that is the epitome of the West Ham badge. Isn't
so
it? That
if
is-
you go back to the original
Mad,
badge, I think early 1920s, it is that shape. It bends in, and if you look at it, you see that the angle bends inwards, where in the modern day badges, it bends outwards.
Yeah.
So that was reversed I think in the 1940s or 50s that they stopped using that badge. Don't know for the reason, if anyone just wanted to ask. I don't know why they decided to just, but the original badge, the angles featured in. But this is the...
It's a great memorial. It's brilliant the way they've done it. So was this the actual place where HMS Albion was situated, or is it just a reproduction?
No, this is just a reproduction. You think
yeah.
Albion was built in the docks,
that's what I was thinking,
and went over. The reason why it's here is because this was obviously built for use of the local community, but the local community was mainly, or majority, were dock workers and Thames Ironworks workers. So if you think, imagine this being Park opened in 1897. Imagine what it was like to live in Canning Town in 1897. It weren't a great place to live.
Grim.
You know, it weren't. It was grim in the 70s, let alone in the 1890s. I mean, if you imagine, a lot of these trees are still the trees that were here when West Ham played football.
And you mentioned about the location of the West Ham cemetery as well, Nige, just beyond that line.
Yeah, so 38 people were killed. The majority of people were buried. Just the other side of there is West Ham Cemetery, Grange Road. And they've got a memorial there, and all the bodies were interned together. And you walk into the middle of the cemetery, and it's there. There's a big anchor there that denotes with the names on the wall of the 38 people that were killed. You know, it was a sad day. The story is that they plucked a woman out from the river that was dead, and when they pulled her out, clinging to her were 2 children as well. So it was a bad day.
Sorry,
very,
that was superb, Nige. Absolutely.
Absolutely amazing. I never tire of watching it. I must have watched that about 10 times now.
Well, that's the thing. We was all on the tour, obviously, and it's still. I'm watching it, and it's still like little bits still resonate with me. You know.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what resonates with me most, and it sounds really stupid because I don't want to bring it back to modern day, but you've got all that stuff surrounding the area, all the heritage, all the information, all the history.
Yeah.
And the current club, in my opinion, couldn't give 2 monkeys about all that.
No, they couldn't care. They couldn't care less.
And I know I don't want to talk about that now, but that's what really resonates with me, that they don't give a monkeys about all that.
I will say just one thing. You know, we've got our resident Mickey taker in the chat. You know, Mr. Mace. Look, normally I'd be making stupid comments, but this is actually
he hasn't taken the piss once. He hasn't taken the piss once tonight. It's a
very good. I said to you, it must be good.
No, it's really, really good. John, you've marked some questions I can see.
Yeah. I put some out there. If anyone wants to ask any questions, just put a Q before it.
I'll tell you what, there is one. A lot of people were asking in the chat about the history of the anthem, Bubbles.
Yeah.
Do you know much about that, Nige?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of mystery wrapped up in it, as a lot of historical things like this are. There was, let's start with what we really think is true, is that there was a boy called, I think, Billy Murray, and he went to Park School in East Ham, which is which is very near Central Park Road. It's still there. So, stone's throw away from the bowling ground. So, and what you got to remember is back in those days as well, that schools football would be attended very well, and some schools would play games on the pitch at Upton Park. Upton Park was used for an unbelievable amount of games, amateur games and everything. So the story is that at the same time he played football, and he had like curly hair. There was the Pears soap advert,
right?
Yeah, and it was Bubbles. If you look it up, was a Pears soap, and basically, I think I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles was written by 2 Americans around 1919. So it was a music hall song from early 20s, taken off, and the West Ham fans started singing it to this boy who was playing youth football.
Right.
And it then caught on and carried on. There was a rumour that actually Swansea sang it first, and West Ham fans heard Swansea singing it. Believe me, I did trawl through the newspapers of the late after the World War I reading Swansea's games to try and see any reference to Swansea singing "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles." Never found it.
Right.
But it sticks with West Ham around that time.
I didn't even know that was a rumour. I didn't know it was a rumour that Swansea did use.
I never heard that.
Yeah, it was something that came out.
Yeah.
Right,
years
so
ago.
I've got a question that I started here from Balls Deep. Nigel, are we originally an Essex club then?
Yeah.
The club formed on the Middlesex side of the river, but played on the Essex side before parts of Essex became East London in '65 when the boundaries moved.
Yeah, I'm not. No, is the answer to that, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, the Thames Ironworks transcended both sides of the border. So the border was the River Lee. Now, as you know, we went to Trinity Boy Wharf, and just north of that part was Ditchburn and Mare and everything. That was Middlesex side. Then when it became Thames Ironworks, they moved on to the Essex side. And the reason as well, I don't know if I did explain it to you, was that there was the Metropolitan Act in the 1850s that banned a load of noxious chemicals and everything being used in industry in the confines of London. So London stops at the River Lee. So therefore, Essex side could be used for all these works. Now, was the Thames Ironworks formed in Middlesex? Well, I took you to the Barking Road. That was the Thames Ironworks Federated Social Club. So I would imagine that was the head office of where Thames Ironworks Football Club would have been formed. That's on the Canning Town side. So, and the official, and this is the thing, some people will pick up and go, the official address of the Thames Ironworks was Orchard Place.
Right.
But the main office and the head office, as was the building, was across the road. Well, it was across on the Essex side, you know, where I pointed out where the building was going.
Yeah.
But I was just saying, the Sports and Social Club was which I would imagine was where they ran West Ham United. Cornelius Osborne was the man, and he was one of the founders of West Ham as well. Yep. Funny enough, Cornelius Osborne started out life, and he was running what was called the People's Picture Palace, which is actually the student union hall at Queen Mary's College. So you know, boys, Queen Mary's College on the Mile End Road.
Yeah.
Look at the front of the building. On the left-hand side, there's a hall. That was actually the People's Palace Cinema, and Cornelius Osborne ran that when he was helped to run West Ham.
All right.
Nice. Take a look at this one. Take a look at this one. 55 Barking Road, which is a cafe now, is the building worthy of a Brown Heritage Plaque, due to being a historical interest building. He says his family owned the building.
Well, that's fantastic, actually. His family owned the building, because I have spoken to Hammers United who are looking to put plaques up, and I've pointed out to them that I would love to have a plaque put there. To denote that was the formation of West Ham United Football Club in 1900. So if Mr. Lucas can help with that, I think that's something we would. There should be something.
It needs to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if I think it's still. I don't know if it's reopened. Years ago, it was called Oliver's Cafe, and there's been a few different cafes in there. They open, they shut, they open, they shut.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it'd be fantastic if we could get the building and have it as a museum to West Ham. Hey, wouldn't that be a good idea?
There you go, Nige. Somewhere to empty your shed into.
Yeah.
This is something. So this isn't a question, but there's a lot of people in the chat. I haven't put any, a lot of people have just been commenting, and it's something that's sort of hit home with me a little bit, really. And I've never really asked you this, because I know you've got massive, obviously, love for the club, as we all have, but your love goes beyond love. It's like an obsession, and I mean that in a good way. No, I mean that in a good way. I don't mean it derogatory. Have you ever? No. Well, no. I'd love all of what you do. If I had the shed like you, mate, it would be my dream. I've told you that before, but my missus won't let me. But have you ever had any contact with the club or any conversations with the club to be sort of like an unofficial historian or do stuff for the club? Have you ever approached them or them approached you? Or
Johnny, ain't gonna happen, mate. You know, the people at the club know who I am.
Under the next ownership, perhaps.
Well,
Just
you know,
what do you mean? You just don't know who I am, and that's
well,
what you've ended.
no.
I see
Look,
what you mean, right.
obviously, my first dealings with this ownership was me trying to convince them that the move will be wrong and they will kill the club as such that we know. I think we could say, I think they have done that. It's a different type of West Ham now, which it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. It is. It's a different type of West Ham
It's
from the one that we
completely
grew up
different.
with.
Completely
So,
different.
but
you could say that football's completely different. I don't want to get all.
Would you say, is it as simple as saying that in 2015-16, the old West Ham closed, and then when we moved to the new place, a new West Ham started?
You know, I had a few people. I actually wrote that once in Overland and Sea. Prior to the move, that when West Ham moves, the club is dead. But luckily enough for me, there's a new club opening up in Stratford, and I can keep feeding my habit. Bit facetious of me, because obviously, yes, it's still West Ham, and we've moved about as we've seen and everything else. But you know, it's not the it's not the club that I grew up.
But Nige, would you reverse that decision? Say West Ham got a wealthy new owner, unlimited money, bought that Memorial Ground and built a new 60,000 seater stadium football ground in there.
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, the mad thing is that I think it was prior to the Icelandics turning up.
Yeah.
That the when the post office, International Post Office depot was shut down in Canning Town, which is behind West Ham Station, so across the road from the memorials. There was a chance that we could have had the land there, which was well big enough. To cope with a 50,000, 60,000, you could have built the Olympic Stadium there in the land that was available. But it was passed up. Now, what you got to remember in 1990, West Ham fans were given the option to vote on should we move out of Upton Park or should we stay and redevelop.
Right.
And the overwhelming vote, I've still got the voting form somewhere. The overwhelming vote was to stay.
Yeah.
You know, so
but
that's you know. But then, as I said in the video, technically, you know, we'll see when we do the second episode with the Upton Park Bowling Ground. They moved to East Ham. You know, that was two boroughs. It was like Newham and Tower Hamlets. It was like being in Newham and then moving Tower Hamlets. Though what I would say is that while the Upton Park Bowling Ground was in East Ham, the houses across the road were in West Ham.
All of that development as well, in you know, because it was 3/4 done, wasn't it? Right, you had both the Centenary and the Bobby Moore and the new West Stand, and then it was only the chicken run to go. That was all done by previous ownership. Gold and Sullivan never redeveloped that ground at all, did they?
Well, no, but you know, I've done this previously. You know,
they had no intention of fucking doing
well, no, but what they've done is they tried twice and failed to move Birmingham City into multi-sports arena. So remember, when Manchester won the Commonwealth Games, they were bidding against Birmingham. Yeah. So if Birmingham had won the Commonwealth Games, not Manchester, Birmingham City would have been playing in the City of Birmingham Stadium.
So they just brought that playbook from Birmingham to West Ham. That's what they've done.
I've got this one. I've got this one for you when you get there. Right? Look, they wouldn't let them extend.
We covered it in the bowling. They wouldn't let them. You know, twice planning permission. Twice planning permission was applied for. The first time it got approved fully. I've got all the drawings. The second time it was pulled by West Ham. So it had gone through a prelim.
Wow.
So it had to go to the Mayor of London and each time, and then West Ham pulled it.
Yeah, I think prepare to get very, very annoyed with when we do the next part as well. Upton Park as well.
I just
want to. I won't highlight that. I won't disagree with him. I won't.
No. The only reason I want to bring this up, I'm not having a go at his comment. I agree with him to some extent, but this is why I think that things like this, the tour, the information that you have readily available, Nigel, to me, as much as football's changed, we all love the history of our club. Now, my boy's 12, right? He knows the FA Cups we've won. He knows Bobby Moore. He knows the history. Football fans love the history of their club. Whether you're a new fan, new breeder fan, no matter
or
what.
at least you should do anyway. You should want to know. You should want to know.
Look, these days, younger generations are on-demand society. They don't want to read in-depth detail and things like that. But this is why, to me, someone like Nigel at the club, or working with or for the club, whatever you want to call it, or even if people share this video around, it's so important for the kids and the new fans to really see where it all comes from. Because, we've supported West Ham all their life, and a lot of this information is new to us.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
For me, it just makes us fall in love even more.
Yeah, quickly, there's a question there from Early Doors Football TV. He said, didn't we have the chance to have the old Memorial Grounds at West Ham, apparently the same size as Wembley? He's a bit confused there. That's West Ham Stadium that was in Custom House. Now, West Ham was offered that stadium. It was as big as Wembley. It had the potential to hold 120,000 fans, they said. So they had Speedway banger racing. For 3 years, a football team played there called Thames AFC. And they hold a record for attendance. In a 120,000 standing stadium, they managed to achieve an attendance of about 490 in a game against Luton Town. And it is the lowest attended football league game.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And that's why the club folded 1931, and the club packed up after 2 years. They only got put into the Football League. They didn't actually, back in those days, you had to apply to join the Football League. So they didn't even win the non-league league that they were in. But because of the size of the stadium, and the football team had been set up purely to use the stadium outside of the speedway and outside of the banger racing. So much like that's why Chelsea were formed, because Stamford Bridge weren't used during the winter, and they wanted a sport to be used. Yeah. So but that failed. So West Ham was offered that West Ham Stadium, but the owners at the time deemed it too large.
Right. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Before we do that question, I'm not going to put the comment up because I've only just seen it and I don't want to. It's the Hey Bulldog 2010. Just for you, mate. I'm going to start eating nuts on screen now. I am. I'm going to start eating cashew nuts and pistachio nuts, and I'm gonna spit them at the screen while I'm vaping. We're not Sky Sports News. We're four blokes sitting in our front rooms talking to you, having a drink like everything else. Don't expect a professional broadcast because you ain't gonna get one. But relax. We're doing this in our spare time.
Do you know what makes me laugh? I've never had so much interest in my nuts from blokes, middle-aged men ever.
Yeah, exactly. Never. So if you don't like nuts in men's mouths, don't tune into Claret and Booze.
Or do, but just while John's not on.
What about this one, Nige? Just a little bit off the history, really, but it's interesting nonetheless. Did you know that Bobby Moore had a sports shop opposite the gates into the West Ham ground, or am I the only one that knew that? I didn't know that.
No, he did. Yeah, I'll send you a photo later, boys. There's a few photos. Yeah, Bobby Moore had the shop. Basically, if you remember where the car park gates were, next to the church, it was a shop opposite there. It was the Bobby Moore sports shop.
Okay. Mark's got a question. Nigel, what is the best book on West Ham that you have read?
The best book is by a man called Professor Charles Core, who's an American.
A good one. I got that.
In 1986, it was called West Ham United Story.
Yeah.
And
have you ever thought of doing a book?
You must have.
Is it not really?
Well, you know what? It's finding the time, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's finding the time.
Yeah.
Dougie Montana wants to know: was Nigel a well-known name on Come Forum?
I was known as my WHUFC on there, and if you trawl back to 2010 and 2011 and 2012, you'll see me getting dogs abuse for the move.
Right, okay, really?
Oh, mate.
Mind you got a load of grief over that, didn't you?
Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah, you got a load of grief.
Yeah, I
wonder how many people now wish they would have joined you. I know I'm one of them. I wish I'd have.
Well,
been part of that
still the most surreal moment. I'd never known who the bloke was when we was I was with my now son-in-law. He was just engaged with my daughter then. He started coming West Ham with me. Yeah. So he didn't know me before we'd moved. So he's coming West Ham with me, and this geezer walks up to me, it's about 6 months after the move, shoved the beer in my hand.
Yeah.
And when I thought you was a cunt back at Upton Park, but you knew what you was talking about, and walked off. I just shoved the beer in my hand. And my son-in-law's just standing there looking at me. Sorry about the language, people, but
actually, you got to say Fergus. You got to say Fergus.
You got to say Fergus Hunt.
Fergus.
Yeah,
I was a Fergus Hunt. And shoved the beer in my hand and walked off.
Garino's got a question. Did the old bowling ground ever get bombed during World War II?
Yes, and it actually damaged a lot of the part of the West Stand, but West Stand was where the offices were, and a lot of West Ham's old paperwork, historical stuff was lost in the bombing as well. So there was a lot of stuff that they lost, but not that we still have it, because obviously if it hadn't been lost during the bombing, Gold and Sullivan would have sold it off with the auction after we left Upton Park, so we wouldn't have it.
That's why it was an odd shape, the West Stand, wasn't it?
Well, there was a bit missing.
Yeah.
Where we got bombed, so the bomb fell between the west and the south bank.
Yeah.
And then I think it was around 60, might have been with the proceeds from the FA Cup win or something like that. 65, 66.
Yeah.
We then built A block, as it was known, in the West Upper, above the West Terrace. And that's where I had my first season ticket in 1977 in A block.
I thought you was going to say, because I vaguely remember, wasn't the whole West Stand built as a result of the 1923 Cup final?
Yeah, so the 1923 Cup, Cup not win, obviously run to the final, and the promotion that year, that gave West Ham the funds to build what us old people knew as the West Stand.
Yeah,
like the grandstand when it was open.
Yeah, that's it. Mr. Mace says he's been to the old ground once since they built the flats there because he works around there. He wasn't sure how he was going to feel. It was horrible. Well, it was the same for us. I don't know about John and Gary. That tour is the one and only time I've been there since the move, and it was horrific. I didn't enjoy it one little bit. To be honest,
I'm there probably 3 times a month.
Right. Yeah.
So you're gonna have a little walk around.
No, I got family in the area, and funny enough, if I'm driving home from North London or whatever, the sneaky cut throughs is actually dart round the back, pop down Green Street, shoot across round the back of East Ham, nip out on the A13, just East Ham.
Yeah, but you can't name the roads like me. Pat Holland fan.
Do you want me to? Because I will if you want.
Pat Holland fan. Sorry, Pat Holland fan. He's asked us a couple of times and I missed it. Sorry, mate. Why did we lose the castle from our emblem? Anyone know?
Yes, ask Karen Brady, and that is truth.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, can't
you've got to love her, haven't you? You've got to love her.
Fucking hell.
When she just decided to get rid of it.
No. I was at a meeting.
What's it got to do with her? Why she has to get involved in that?
It's all about marketing, isn't it? And basically, and this is true, I did see an email where basically that symbolised our past. We need to move on, people.
Yeah.
But we was SAB. We was at an SAB meeting, and she actually said she wanted to replace the castle. This is before the move, with the image of the London Stadium, or with the Olympic Stadium. And apparently, even David Gold had blocked that. And she said that
West Ham Olympic as well, right?
Yeah, that was. I think that arose after wanting to put the Olympic Stadium.
Yeah.
Obviously, you couldn't call West Ham Olympic because the Olympics really trademarked. That's why the London Stadium had to change its name, because they don't like Olympic stadiums keeping their names now.
Okay.
That they protect. I mean, people may not know this. There used to be an Olympic Cafe in West Ham Lane, and they had to change their name. Honestly, the Olympics made them do it
because of Newham. Because of Newham.
No, because the Olympic people,
when they come to Newham, though, that's what I meant.
Yeah, like you can't call it that.
Right.
All right.
Wow.
But that conversation there that you just described regarding Brady and the castle, that just epitomises how little interest. How little interest they have in the club's history. That is disgusting. I never knew that till this moment you told me.
They'll use the history when they see fit. Yeah,
when it suits them.
When it suits them.
Yeah.
When they want to go. Look, if you see the video, they're out in Australia. They've gone to that geezer's museum, and that is a fantastic in his house. You
unbelievable.
Every collector that I know hands down, that bloke is fantastic. And we
Yeah,
used to
it was
bid
amazing.
against things at auctions. And
I will say his presentation, the way he's done it all as well, is different class. Isn't it?
Fantastic.
It's
Mine's like
different
a
class.
fucking boot sale.
Yeah.
I've got, boys, I've got.
But you've got a lot of stuff though, and that's why I think when going back to what John
Yeah.
said about doing a book, is with all the stuff that you've got, where would you start? That's that. If you was going to do a book or something like that, you've got so much information. It would,
well,
it'd almost be like a life's work, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. And that's the thing. But at the end of the day, the club that wouldn't have a museum, go and visit a museum. But then again,
But as you've seen tonight, though, just and that's just sort of touching the surface, right? We've got such a rich history. Why wouldn't you have a museum?
Because I'll tell you why. Because we don't own the London Stadium, and the only thing they've got real control of is the build of a building, is the club shop building.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So they've got control of that upstairs and downstairs. Now that's retail space. They ain't giving up no retail space for a museum. They won't do it because the retail space earns money.
And all it'd be in a building that was anything to do with Sullivan, it would be 30% museum and 70% marketing space for their merchandise, wouldn't it? For replica fucking stadiums and things like that. That's what it'd be.
The only thing is, I would say is that they did quickly before I answer that question. Quickly, they did have a museum. Those that remember it, and hardly anyone went there.
That's right.
The way they did it was
a bad effort, though, Nige, wasn't it? It was bad effort.
But I've got a couple.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that
in my shed. So I got, well, when you come around my shed, John, you can see parts of it. Anyway, let's answer that.
Your shed.
Anne Boleyn never went there, mate. It was built after she'd lost her head, but basically her family, I think, was something to do with I think it's called Hever Castle, which is down Sevenoaks Way. And the I've forgotten the names. It was like someone to do with their family. It was them that had the land built. Of course, there was no castle at Upton Park. There was Green Street House, which had been there for years, and then the turret is what is known as a folly. So it was added as something. But up until it was demolished, funny enough, there used to be businesses that traded at the castle called, and one was a garment that moved to Dagenham, and they made like workwear, and they were called Bolinium Bill. So if you look up the word Bolinium Bill, there's a website there that tells the story of Bolinium Bill, and he made like overcoats and everything, and they traded out of the Bolin Castle. One thing I will add, when we moved to Upton Park, there was a football club already playing there called Bolin Castle FC, and they had to merge with West Ham United when we took over in 1904. I think some of their players made it into our reserve team, but none of them ever made it into the first team.
Right. Okay.
Jimmy B looks like he's trying to push something onto you. Any idea how much a signed Cup Winners' Cup programme from '64 would be worth? Sir Bob being one of the signatures passed around in my family.
An unautographed 64-65 Cup final programme probably be worth, depending if you can get collectors that haven't got it, only between 20 and 30 quid. 64-65. The autographs though add value, not as much as you think. You know, a Bobby Moore written in pen ink with no obviously no certificate, because it weren't done in those days. It could be verified. You could probably get 100 quid top whack. Right, okay. That's top whack.
This is a question from Flamer 77. We sort of discussed what West Ham could have done in the past, but their question is, if I can get it up, hang on. What are the chances to build a new stadium in East Ham or Beckton area?
Right. So in theory, there's still land. In practice, someone's going to pay £700 million to buy West Ham. Then they're going to pay £500 million to build a new football stadium. It's going to be the same size of the stadium that they've already got.
I mean,
Wouldn't be a
the
business decision, would it?
only argument for that would be if we got an owner that had an eye on the real estate side of things, which is likely. Let's face it, when a new one does come in,
True.
they're gonna pick up the Olympic Stadium for next to nothing. We know that the footprint that stadium sits on is very
people keep saying that, and it's not happening. You know, the LDC's been extended.
Yeah.
You know,
you're talking about sort of them almost giving us a stadium.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think we'll have to buy it. They'd have to come to some agreement. But
it's such a political football as such. It kicks about between the parties.
Yeah.
And you know, listen, the man that did the deal that gave it to West Ham that screwed over the taxpayers. You know what we did? We elected him to lead the Prime Minister of the country. No wonder that we got screwed, mate.
No.
You know.
Richard Stevens, any info on early West Ham player Sid Puddifoot?
Sid Puddifoot was one of the early, I think the 1910s. Puddifoot came into the team, and he was a local boy, and he was sold for I don't know if it was a world record fee, but it was £5,000, a lot of money back then, and he went to Falkirk.
Right.
Wow.
You know, he did then come back to West Ham, I think in the late 1920s, early 30s, but by then he'd spent his best years traipsing around other football clubs before he got back to West Ham. There was
never left.
Billy Bridgman was one of the first stars of West Ham. Scored a few goals when we opened it.
Yeah.
And the other one early doors would have been George Hillsden, Gatling gun, who fought in the First World War. But Gatling gun Hillsden was transferred to Chelsea, and he's famous because if you go to Chelsea Football Club, they've got a weather vane with a footballer on and the northeast southwest, and it can spin round. It's been there, and that is George Hillsden.
Oh right.
But he was a local. I'm pretty sure he was a local West Ham boy, and we sold him to Chelsea.
Yeah,
and I think he got mustard gas in the First World War. He didn't. I think he died from it, but years later, after he came back, he didn't die during the war.
And just so you know, we're going to be opening the phone line soon for somebody to take Nigel on for a quiz on history. If you win, we're going to give you £10,000.
Hang on, hang on a minute. You remember, Nick? Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. In our early shows, a lot of people won't even know. They won't even seen our early stuff. When we first started doing this, I beat Nigel once. Remember?
Yeah, I'm not. It's not that I you know, it was the only one I lost. And
you got angry. You got angry about it.
And I will tell you why, right? Because Les Seeley and Alan Seeley were not uncle and nephew, as you claimed, and you got given the correct answer. They were second cousins, as I had claimed, and I got told I was wrong. So actually, if we'd have took that off of you, put it on to me, I'd have won it. So
VAR. So what you're saying is, Nigel, is VAR.
Well, if you VAR that, yes.
Yeah.
Next question, more personal for you, Nige. Your first game and experience. Remember your first game was?
The problem is I got took so much as a youngster. I'm one of these people. There's a few people. I don't remember my first game. We got season tickets though in 1977.
Yeah,
I think the first home game that season was Man City.
It's probably
7 years old, excited. That wasn't my first game. I've been to a few others. I think it was a Man United game in the season before that. But of course, we got relegated that year. Our first season at West Ham as a season ticket holder. I went to about 10 games that season. I remember we beat Derby, but the big game for me really was we lost to Liverpool 2-0. April 78. It sealed our relegation. And bearing in mind West Ham got relegated that day. There's a video on YouTube. Go look at it. Go and look at the crowd reaction at the end of the game to relegation. We cheered them. They came back out on the pitch. Frank Lampard, I think Bonzo was injured. Frank Lampard brought them back out on the pitch, and we cheered them. And that for me is the day I proper fell in love with football.
Yeah.
That's
this question's come up a couple of times. So if I've missed it, I'm sorry. Where is Bobby Moore's World Cup winning medal?
Storage.
It's in storage.
It's in storage. West Ham still own it
with the rest of the museum contents.
Yeah.
What I will say as well.
The museum contents they didn't sell off.
Oh, they sold some of them off, did they?
No, they sold most of it off.
Oh, good.
I've actually got the catalogue.
Can you clarify, Nige? I don't know whether you know. I've been told that David Gold actually purchased and paid an absolute fortune in its pride of place in his home, family home, and that was for the FA Cup, 1980 FA Cup.
No,
Is that true?
No, that's yes and no. So what he actually bought was the original FA Cup. So the version that we use now, I think, is from the early 1900s, 1910s.
Yeah.
The original, I think, was stolen out of a shop in Birmingham, and then they made another one. And David Gold bought that to save it going abroad, and he owned it and used to display it on open days. I went to his house once to be nosy at an open day.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of goldfish. And he served the burgers, funny enough. Dave. He did muck in. And, it's a normal house. He's got his 3 helicopters parked out on the lawn. His Bentley's all lined up, and his golf course that he had in his garden with his West Ham flags. So it was quite interesting. But he had it on display, the original FA Cup. Now, about 3-4 years ago, he sold it. And it was a bit hush-hush, sold at auction. And the owner,
I didn't know this,
donated it back. And I believe it's on display at the Football Museum in Manchester. And the owners are supposedly the owners of Manchester City.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So,
Andy Moles, he says, Nigel, why do the club own Bobby Moore's medal?
The family were looking to sell it, and it was part of the original museum. Right. So it was part of the collection that was displayed in the original museum. When you walked in the museum, they had like 8-foot Jules Rimet, and then you had glass cases, and you had Bobbies and Martin Peters. Now the club have kept Bobbies. They sold off Martin Peters stuff.
Right. They also had all of Bobby Moore's other awards, like the Sports Personality of the Year and stuff like that, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, no, the Sports Personality of the Year award that was on display was actually the 1965 Team of the Year.
Oh, was it?
West Ham United one.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, we were Team of the Year Sports Personality, right?
So in 1965, we were Team of the Year on BBC Sports Personality.
Right.
And that
just shows you. It shows you what a profile the Cup Winners' Cup had back then. For people to say that it was, a 2-bob cup. No, it wasn't.
European.
But it goes back to sort of style of play as well. I think when like Canning Town Lens video, now everyone's favourite second team. It was a thing. I do think that a lot of people had a bit of affection for us because of the way that we used to play football. That's
used to.
I also think
used to play football.
Yeah,
and this is what people don't get. This is what I don't get, right? So I've look. Listen, I'm not going to get into it, but I was listening to a channel earlier on, right? And the guy's rationale for he's basically saying no. It's all about. It's just about results. It's like they're teletext supporters. Do you not watch the game? There has to be some entertainment. There's got to be enjoyment in it. It's not just about. It's not just about the results. It ain't.
It cannot just be about results if you're a West Ham fan, because we've never won anything. We don't win enough trophies for it to be about results. So it's only about entertainment because that's all we've got. Because we win in terms of trophies, we win so little. So I can't understand that. I can't understand that rationale. I haven't seen the video, but you told me. But I can't get me around. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. But if you're a West Ham fan, I can't see how you can say that.
But that for me, that smacks of someone who's more of a new fan, who just kind of, do you know what I mean? I think if you kind of, not everyone's the same, because I don't understand it. Well, if results is all you care about, why would you support West Ham if it's results and success? Well,
you've picked the wrong club, haven't you?
You picked the wrong club, and the thing is with Mickey put the question to us on the Friday night phone in, Nigel, and I'll ask you as well. with you, is style or substance? What would you? So entertainment or success? What would you choose? If you can't have both, you can only choose one in isolation. What would you prefer?
Define success.
Success is playing like we did last year and winning a cup, or be entertained.
No, football's an entertainment. First and foremost. You know, and we should. I told you boys, I didn't do the video, but there was a lot to be learned from what Stokesy said after the Ashes finished with the draw, and that the way England went out, and that England will always go out because predominantly they want to send the fans home happy. Yeah. And the fact is that if we'd have lost that Test series 3-1, I don't think there'd have been many England fans complaining because of the quality of cricket by England. Was outstanding. Now we could have lost that series 3-1. We could have done, but the fact is that it ended in a 2-2 draw. We would have won in Manchester if it hadn't rained. Ho ho. And if you look at the other two Test matches that we'd lost, we actually threw it away by playing or trying to play an over-elaborate, entertaining cricket. So therefore. Actually, I think there is a lot to learn there from clubs like West Ham in listening to what he had to say.
This is a great point from Mr. Mace, and I didn't realise how far our fan base spread until I started doing YouTube. People from outside the manor supported West Ham because of the footballing tradition and the way we played. Huge part of our identity, and I never thought of it like that. But
we were everyone's second team at one point, John. That's what we were.
I think we were a fashionable team, weren't we?
Yeah. I mean, if you listen, there's a famous quote, Bill Shankly, eulogising about West Ham and the way they played in the 60s.
Really?
Oh yeah, but he did finish it off with the word 4 points.
Yeah.
And what he basically was saying is that West Ham played fantastic football. Got brilliant players, love it, but Liverpool always beat them.
But you've got to have something, right? You've got to have something to cling on to. You've got to have something to cling on to. It's an entertainment industry as well as a sport. And that is partly why a lot of us, especially me, you sort of brought up and told to notice things like that, like that beautiful pass from Trevor Brooking, the way he opened up the defence and things like that. Devonshire Storm, Pop Robson. Loads. There was so much entertainment in West Ham teams over the years. Very few have been bland and empty like they are at the moment.
It's tough at the moment. I ain't gonna dress it up. You boys know I ain't gonna dress it up and say, oh, this is fantastic football, or the football that we played was great. I'm not a sacking the manager person.
No, you're not.
It is a tough dilemma for me. Obviously, sometimes I do over defend Moyes when he gets a certain amount of stick.
But what else have you got? Like John was saying, what else have you got? We're not going to celebrate finishing 7th or 8th or 10th in the league, are we? So surely,
I don't see the point in it. I don't see the point. You know that I've said. I don't see the point in obviously I don't want to see us relegated, but I don't get hung up on I want to see progression, I want to see top 6, because it ain't going to happen. I want to see cups. That's what I want to see.
Entertainment.
And entertainment.
Greeno says best memory from a game. Mine was a chicken incident, last game of the chicken run.
Go on.
I think it was that the bloke that dressed up was Chicken Ron and came on the pit. But the best memory from a game. Listen, I was a mascot, wasn't I? I can still tell you about that day non-stop. So
bloody hell!
Was you the only mascot? Was you the only mascot?
I was the only mascot.
Because now they have about 20 mascots, don't they?
Yeah. I was the mascot for the day, and I'm in the 1982 annual. So if you've got the 1982 West Ham United annual, there's a picture of me running out.
How special is that though? To be the only mascot for it? Because
it's amazing.
There's bundles there now, isn't there?
Now it's disgusting the way they do it.
I know they heard him in. I've got a question for you, Nige. Go back to Upton Park. It has to be an Upton Park night. If you could go back in time and relive one night, what would it be?
I mean,
day, it doesn't have to be a night.
Easy to stand on the pitch after the last game of the season and think we're going to win the league, and actually
Believe
that moment in time, we were going to win the league. Then,
well, so you did feel like that. That was it. That was our year. Yeah.
Gal, wasn't it? Gal,
yeah. No, we did. We believed it. We were good. We were really good.
I was 15, 16 that year. I started doing away games as and when I could. Did all the London, went to Ipswich, went up to Everton last game of the season. West Brom, you know, it was that season, and the thing that people don't realise, and this is the thing, that season we lost every pre-season game, and not only that, the season before that we beat Norwich 1-0 with a late goal by Bobby Barnes. If Norwich had won that game, West Ham would have gone down and Norwich would have stayed up.
Right.
That's how close that season was. Yeah. And then 85, 86 happened, and we nearly win the league. It was such a turnaround like that.
Yeah.
So that the other night for me, well, there's a few night games. Dinamo Tbilisi was fantastic. The other one was the Coventry League Cup game. I mean, that was
electric. Oh yeah, the semi-final.
The last kick of the game, Jimmy Neighbour, bang, sent us to Wembley.
Oh, I was listening to that on the radio in Eric Street with my dad.
My uncle had the right ump because he always wanted to leave 5 minutes before the end of the game. And because it looked like it was going to extra time, he was like, "Are we going to go?" And I said, "Oh, I want to stay because of extra time." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to go with extra time then." He said, "I'll give you the bus fare. You'll have to get home," because he wouldn't take me home. So I says, "All right then." Now you think I was only 81, so I was 11. I weren't 12 yet. So I was 11. Of course, he scored with the last kick of the game. It was my uncle had the right ump. He had an hour wait to get his car out of the car. Don Logan says the Cambridge game, fantastic night game.
Yeah.
West Ham played it. It was the Friday before Christmas, and what the theory behind it was, it's played on the Friday because they were hoping to get a bigger crowd to avoid the last Saturday before shopping. So they thought, people could go Christmas shopping on Sunday. No, this is gospel. So West Ham
I believe you. I'm just mad.
On the Friday night. Unfortunately, because the snow blew in halfway through the game. You couldn't see the pitch. No word of a lie. Couldn't see the pitch. But of course, that night, many people wouldn't know there was a mascot for the kids. So the mascot that night went on to play for West Ham, and his name was Gary Charles.
Oh wow!
Oh really? Oh wow!
So Gary Charles, who played the Derby, Forest, scored against the.
That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
He went on, and we ended up in the same class at school. And it was funny when he told me that he was the mascot for that Cambridge game, and you can get the program and see him in there. He won it in the Newham Recorder.
Brilliant!
Wow,
that's unbelievable. Do you know? I've got to say something as well about this video because I've watched a few people that have tried to do similar types of things to this in the past, and they don't get much interest. But this one has just crept up and up and up, and we've maintained the audience, and people have watched the whole way through. The numbers have just crept up. And they've just stayed there.
No,
it's all your delivery, Nige. It's all your delivery.
Good numbers.
They are. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's good. So what's the next video we're doing? What's the next show we're doing of? That covers Upton Park in the main.
It's just Upton Park.
It's just Upton Park, but there's like I say, that's a bit of a heartbreaker. That one. It's frustrating, especially when you kind of dig into what could have been, Nigel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a year ago. So the development is coming to an end. So the Memorial Garden has finally been finished, I believe, and has opened. Yeah. The last buildings, I believe, have been built. There's not a lot really of building works to be left done there now. So
There's a couple of good things, but that's it, right? I'm talking about a couple of things to take from it that give you a little bit of, peace of mind, like the way they, I'm not going to give the video away, but the naming convention they used and the patch of grass and stuff like that, there's a couple of things, but just not enough. Not enough. It's
If
like-
you-
You know what? I
okay,
actually,
if-
I'm-
if- you know, like,
that
but you know,
grass is the bit that gives me the actually.
yeah.
If you look
yeah.
at other football grounds and what they've done,
you look
Yeah.
at Arsenal. Have you?
Look
You
at
know,
Arsenal.
you've seen what they've
Yeah.
done there. That's impressed. That's class. What
Yeah.
they've done.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
actually
but
is.
Arsenal controlled the redevelopment of that, and plus
Yeah.
also is those two stands, the east and west stands, they
Yeah.
were listed, protected, so
Right.
they had to be incorporated
Ah,
into
right,
the
okay,
design.
okay.
But Arsenal
Yeah.
did go, and I think Arsenal still get an income because I'm pretty sure Arsenal still own the land.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
I think they're the landlord in some capacity. I'm
Yeah.
sit are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've dropped a lot of people who live there off, and
Yeah.
I've been inside, help people in with their shopping and that. And the way they've kept it, it still feels great. Like
Yeah, but
it don't feel great to me because I can't stand Arsenal. But you know what I mean.
it's just West Ham through and through what they've done. This ownership through and through. They have no respect for the history at all. If
They
they
don't.
can make some money out of the history, then they'll raise it. Like they used the Thames Ironworks branding to sell some shirts when we moved in and stuff like that, and they've put TIW on the badge on the hammers.
Exactly.
They've done all that, but they're if they can make a few quid out of it, they'll bring it up. Other than that, it doesn't make it mean a fucking thing to them, does it?
No.
No. Not not in my opinion. Actions speak louder than words, and for me, they've got Steve Marsh does some great stuff in the program, and I think it's Stuart Allen. So if you get the program, you see the history stuff, and they use Steve and whatever. Unfortunately for me or whatever, it's a fractured relationship now to the point that the media controller of West Ham blocked me on Twitter, and but then again, he is a Spurs fan, so.
Well,
Exactly.
What's he doing involved at the club?
Well, he's been there a long time. I
Yeah.
use it as a cheap jibe, people think, but what it is to point out is that time and time again,
You
they
shouldn't
give
really
things
have
wrong.
a Spurs fan as a head of the West Ham media.
not really.
Well,
no.
they time and time again they do things wrong. And
Yeah.
my argument always is that if you had a West Ham fan there, would have an understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yes.
make mistake after mistake. I mean, I had a rag. They used an article of mine twice on their website without putting my name on it. And the first time I pointed it out to him politely. The second time I told him, we did this last year. Now, you put my name on that. That is my article.
Yeah.
So
I suppose you must annoy them every year when they celebrate the birthday, and then you say this is not actually the birthday. Generic tweet.
Yeah, I don't know what the people think of that. In the chat, if you see it, West Ham 1895. Yeah, when I was a kid growing up, Panini sticker album 1900.
Yeah.
West Ham
Yeah.
formed.
Yeah,
Not only that,
that is the correct thing. Yeah,
in the program, West Ham was formed 1900. Now it looks to be around 1989, 1990 that West Ham then started changing to 1895. Because
Yeah.
before that,
what reason was there for that though?
well, it brought the centenary 5 years forward, didn't it? And it meant they could make
Few
a bit
quid.
of coinage. Now we did have a centenary.
God.
Now we did have a centenary game in
Jesus
1995 that was not well attended. I believe it was against Sporting Lisbon.
Yeah.
And my abiding memory of the night was as I walked past the bowling after the game, there was a big cheer. And when I peered through the window at the TV, Seaman sitting in the back of his goal and Nige had just smashed in that.
Halfway line.
That was,
Nige from the halfway line.
that was the biggest cheer. I think we got beat by Sporting Lisbon as well.
Nigel, quickly, better player. Sir Trevor scored his only first team hat trick against whom and when?
Bloody hell. That I wouldn't off the top.
He's been done.
Individual. I'm not. I don't sit there with all these stats.
Yeah, that's got to be
rolling around.
against. That's got to be in the second division, isn't it?
No, I don't
Gotta be
think
in-
it was. I'd imagine it was early in his career. I think it would. I bet if it was late 60s, early 70s. Go on, Rich. Come and tell me. I know.
Anyone
Richie
knows?
well.
Tell us. Oh, do you know him?
Yeah, he's an expat that lives in Albuquerque. We converse. We're pen pals.
Oh, right. Okay.
Where's Albuquerque?
New Mexico. Breaking
Oh.
Bad is Albuquerque.
Oh, right.
Right. Okay.
There you go. Newcastle, 1968.
There you
I
go.
knew it would be early
Bloody hell.
in his career. But yeah, of course, Billy Bonds was once top scorer for the season, I believe. Billy Bonds did get an hat trick once, I believe, against Chelsea. There you go,
right, okay.
Rich, before you throw that one at me.
Right. Well, look, I think that's really good. I think we should try and wrap this one up now.
Yep.
It's been a brilliant show. Thanks everyone in the chat
really
as
good.
well. It's been really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Gary, do you want to close it down?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. When are we doing part 2? How long are you going to take to do the video, Nige?
Well, when it's ready, we'll do it.
Couple of weeks.
It might be a cut, because it was
Quite a long one, isn't it?
It was a long one, and chopping it up caused me a few
Yeah.
problems. I've had to delete it and start again.
Well, that is also going to be a really interesting show. So thanks for your attention. Thanks for all your great comments and questions. It's been really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed tonight. Nice, easy one. Sit back and watch some videos, you know.
Yeah.
Until next time. Well, we're hoping for some news over the next couple of days. As it happens, we will.
It ain't happening.
Hang on a minute.
Not that news, different
I'm
news.
sorry.
What signings?
Say one thing.
Oh, signings. Sorry.
Tim Steiden's a liar, isn't he?
He said 2 days. He said 2
He said
days.
we'd have 2 signings by the weekend.
He lied to Anton's face, didn't he?
Oh no!
He lied to Anton's face.
Anton said it must have been 2 working days.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So by Tuesday. Yeah. Oh, no. He said it on Thursday. So by Monday.
Yeah. By Monday. Yeah.
Tomorrow, 2 signings. Here we go.
Because we know Sullivan don't work on weekends, does he?
No, he doesn't. No. Well, we saw where he was, didn't we? Did you see the video? We saw where he was while West Ham were playing out in Germany.
The back of his head. I mean,
yeah. He could have been dead. It could have been like Weekend at Bernie's thing.
They should have put him in an eye chair, really, wouldn't it?
And the missus was enjoying herself, wasn't she? Next door. Oh, my God.
Take your tits out, my life.
I don't know what he says in her.
If 2 people ever meant to be together, it's them 2.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, thank you very much, all. See you next time. Come on, you irons.
Cheers, Nige. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, nice one.
Thank you, everyone.